Hello and welcome to Spectrum News at 9. My name is Xavier Robert, coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom. Let's take a look at the headlines. Nigeria signs MOU with Saudi Arabia on cooperation in energy sector. Senate proposes sack for heads of MDAs who failed to attend MTEF FSP sessions. Plus, President Macron urges Israel to protect civilians at Gaza Aid Conference. Details of these stories and more in a moment. First in the news tonight is a report that Saudi Arabia has signed a memorandum of understanding with Nigeria on energy-related cooperation. Saudi Arabia's Energy Minister Abdulaziz bin Salman disclosed this during the Saudi Arab-African Economic Conference in Riyadh. Reports say at the meeting, Salman also met with Henneken Lokboberi, Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, global oil and gas stakeholders at the event, and discussed the conditions and stability of the petroleum market as well as topics of common interest in the field of energy. Meanwhile, the announcement of the deal comes hours after President Bola Tinubu arrived in Riyadh, the Saudi Arabian capital city, to attend the Saudi Africa Summit. According to the presidential spokesman Ajurin Galale, Tinubu arrived a Middle Eastern country as part of efforts to attract foreign direct investments and mobilize capital to build needed infrastructure. In another development, President Tinubu has approved the appointment of Mohammed Isa to serve as his senior special assistant on disability matters. The special advisor to the president on media and publicity, Njirin Galale, disclosed the appointment at the State House, Abuja. Galale stated that the appointment follows Tinubu's determination to ensure that every segment of society is sufficiently catered to within the ambit of the renewed hope agenda of his administration. He noted that the president tasks the new appointee to proactively create avenues of opportunity for inclusion through the inculcation of PWD requirements and perspectives in the policies and programs of all ministries, departments and agencies of the federal government, while working closely with sub-national authorities to build a national consensus of PWD-friendly policy and environmental conditions in collaboration with the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities. In the meantime, the President has also appointed 20 Nigerians to serve as federal commissioners in the National Population Commission (NPC). 9 of the current commissioners were reappointed for second term in office, while 11 others were newly appointed. In a statement by his spokesman, Ajurin Galale, the President charged the new and returning NPC commissioners to successfully implement all measures taken by his administration to produce and effectively appropriate accurate population data with which lasting solutions to Nigeria's social, political, and economic challenges can be conclusively developed and executed. Meanwhile, President Tinubu has recently stopped the implementation of a hike in electricity tariff and insisted that subsidy be paid on power consumed nationwide. The Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, revealed this at a press briefing in Abuja. Adelabu stated that the federal government would investigate the legality of the 5-year license extension given to privatized power distribution and generation companies, stressing that the operating licenses of the firms would have expired on October 31, 2023. The minister further stated that the non-implementation was causing liquidity crisis in the sector, but stressed that the president had refused to allow a raise in electricity rate. He, however, pointed out that tariff would be increased at the appropriate time, which would be after sensitization and communication with the public adding that there must also be an assured, incremental and regular supply. Elsewhere, the Vice President, Kashim Shettima, has reiterated President Bola Tinubu's commitment to the overall development of the Niger Delta and other parts of the country. The Senior Special Assistant to the President in Media and Communications Office of the Vice President, Stanley Nkwocha, said this in a statement released to newsmen. Shettima, who represented Tinubu at the grand finale of the All Progressives Congress APC gubernatorial rally in Bayelsa, said the state remained dear to the visions and developmental focus of the Tinubu-led administration. According to him, plans for the development of the region and other parts of the country in terms of infrastructure, technological advancements, education, and harnessing the bountiful resources have not only been mapped out, but are being gradually laid out. In another development, the First Lady Oluremi Tinubu today in Abuja charged the leadership of the Armed Forces of Nigeria (AFN) to fasten their belts in meeting up with the security challenges of the country. The First Lady gave this advice in her address read by Nana Shettima at the Defense Headquarters one-day gender mainstreaming conference with the theme Building Capacity Through Gender Mainstreaming to Meet Security Challenges. Oluremi, commending the leadership of the AFM for organizing the program, also acknowledged that the event was timely given several security challenges facing the country. The First Lady further said the security challenges have become increasingly complex and multi-path. She said it requires a collective effort to address security issues and advance gender mainstreaming. Away from that now, the Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Ahmed Dangiwa, says the federal government will no longer tolerate abandoned projects across the country. Dangiwa, who said this during the familiarization visit of project sites awarded in 2019, constructed by the government and its agencies in Abuja, said that unserious developers and contractors would be edged out. According to reports, the projects inspected were the 1,250 units estate, GB FCT, and a condominium of 24 units of flats comprising 1, 2, and 3 bedroom flats, also in FCT. The minister said the attitude of the developers abandoning project sites would no longer be tolerated and advised that every project site should be cleared of weeds. Meanwhile, the Minister of State, Water Resources and Sanitation, Bello Gonroyo, has said that the federal government will collaborate with the Cross River State government to improve food production and security. The minister also urged the Cross River Basin Development Authority to work with stakeholders through the expansion of more irrigable lands to boost food production. The ministry's Director, Press and Public Relations Unit, Funmi Imwetian, made this known in a statement. The minister, while addressing the need for adequate food production, added that the move was in line with the renewed hope agenda of President Bola Tinubu. In the meantime, the federal government has slammed the comment of the Labour Party presidential candidate in the February 25 election, Peter Obi, on the recently signed supplementary budget. The federal government decried the comment of Obi that the supplementary budget was insensitive to the citizens, noting that it is a bold and pragmatic response to national pressing issues. Recall that Obi had on Wednesday via a post on his X handle lamented that the supplementary budget failed to capture urgent items of national welfare despite being signed by President Bola Tinubu at a late period of the year. The erstwhile Anambra State Governor branded the federal government's act as uncaring and insensitive. However, in response to the claim, the Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, said that the budget signed into law on Wednesday by Tinubu was a reflection of the administration's bold and pragmatic response to the pressing and economic challenges Nigeria currently faces. After the Red Chambers now aware, the Senate today said any head of ministries, departments and agencies of government who absented from the 2024-2026 MTAF FSP interactive session should be sacked. The upper legislative chamber made it mandatory for physical appearances of heads of government agencies at the MTAF FSP sittings, while they called on President Bola Tinubu to sack any unserious government official. Reading the Riot Act at the formal opening of the interactive session jointly organized by its committees of Finance, Appropriations, National Planning, Local and Foreign Debts, the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, insisted on the sack of any head of a government agency who refuses to attend the session. Off to the Green Chambers now, where the House of Representatives has mandated its committees on privatization and commercialization, industry and steel to investigate the abandoned Osogbo Steel Rolling Company and Nigeria Machine Tools (NMT). The House also urged the Bureau of Public Enterprise (BPE) to embark on regular inspections and monitoring of government-owned enterprises acquired by investors. These resolutions followed the adoption of a motion titled "Need to Investigate the Privatization and Subsequent Abandonment of Osogbo Steel Rolling Mills," moved by Adewale Morufu Adebayo and Akanni Clement Ademola. Moving the motion, Adebayo noted that Osogbo Steel Rolling Company was one of the 3 inland rolling mills in Nigeria established by an act of the federal government of 1976 and officially commissioned in 1983 to produce a maximum of 210,000 metric tons of iron rods annually. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives today issued a mandate to the Chief of Naval Staff and heads of relevant security agencies to take urgent and proactive steps against pirates terrorizing fishermen on the Akwa Ibom State waterways. The House condemned the development and vowed to address the matter without delay. The motion was sponsored by Alphonsus Uduak. He added that the Parliament is aware of man's inhumanity to man, masterminded by pirates against fishermen, having killed 9 and inflicted gunshot and machete injuries on 15 others, as at last week in Utaiwa, Ikorabasi local government area within the Akwa Ibom State waterways. In the meantime, the House of Representatives has resolved to engage the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies (NIPSS) in redeveloping the nation's security measures and making it an integral part of the solution. The Green Chamber also resolved to review the welfare of members of the armed forces and paramilitary organizations who risk their lives to keep the nation safe by improving their incentives. The resolution of the House followed the adoption of a motion moved at plenary by Abdul Samad Dasuki. Moving the motion, Dasuki said Nigeria faces numerous security challenges, including insurgency, terrorism, banditry, kidnapping, communal clashes, cybercrime, and general criminal activities affecting all regions and citizens' lives. He expressed worry that critical and urgent interventions, as indicated by the National Security Committee's summit findings, are essential to addressing the security issues, preventing further escalation of violence and instability in the region, and safeguarding the lives and assets of the communities. Elsewhere, the House of Representatives Committee on Federal Capital Territory (FCT) has urged the Minister Nyesom Wike to prioritize security of lives and property in the nation's capital. It also implored the former Rivers State Governor to commit his energy, experience and network to improving on revenue generation to fund the infrastructural development of the FCT. The Chairman, House Committee on FCT, Mokhtar Liu, gave the charge in Abuja at the inaugural meeting of the panel, Betara, while urging members to dedicate their time and energy to the realization of the renewed hope agenda of the President Bola Tinubu. Said the committee could not afford to fail FCT natives and residents in the task entrusted to them. Still from the Green Chambers now, the House of Representatives today mandated its Committee on HIV/AIDS, Tuberculosis and Malaria Control to carry out a baseline survey across the 6 geopolitical zones of the country on fake anti-malaria drugs and report back to it within 4 weeks. The resolution of the House followed the adoption of a motion of urgent public importance brought before the lawmakers during plenary by the members representing Ohiom 1, Ohun Ward, and Arochukwu or Hafia federal constituencies of Edo and Abia states, Bilio Sawaru and Osongwa Ibe, respectively. Speaking on the significance of the bill titled Motion on the Urgent Need to Conduct a National Baseline Survey on Fake Anti-Malaria Medicines in Nigeria, Osawaru said the House was fully aware that in Nigeria there is an agency that is charged with the responsibility of regulating the production, importation and distribution of drugs called the National Agency for Food and Drugs Administration and Control. We move on to the judiciary now, where an Oyo High Court sitting in Owe has adjourned for hearing a fresh suit filed by Oyo Kingmakers Oyo Messi against Governor Seyi Makinde and 2 others on the vacant stool of Alafin of Oyo till December 14. Reports say the Attorney General, Commissioner for Justice and the Commissioner for Local Government and Chieftaincy of Matters were joined in the suit as co-defendants. The claimants in the suit are High Chief Yusuf Ayola, Bashorun of Oyo, Wakil Oyedepo, Laguna, Amuda Yusuf Akiniku, Wahid Oyetunji Are, Ago Bashorun, and Badebo Mufutao Bale Alapo. The kingmakers in the suit filed on their behalf by their lead counsel Kazim Sobaloju after the withdrawal and subsequent striking out of a similar case by the court had approached the court today with a fresh suit. In a separate development, the Inspector General of Police IGP Kayode Agbatokun has appointed Tunji Disu as the new Commissioner of Police in Rivers State. The IGP also redeployed Ngonyi Emeka from Rivers State to the force headquarters in Abuja. The redeployments, which was announced in a statement by the force spokesman Muyiwa Dejobi, followed a political crisis that rocked the oil-rich South-South state last week. According to the statement, the IGP also ordered new postings for 14 Assistant Inspector General of Police and 24 commissioners. In politics, former Vice President Atiku Abubakar today stormed the ancient city of Lokoja, the Kogi state capital, to charge the electorate to vote for the candidate of the People's Democratic Party (PDP) in the November 11 governorship election. Atiku, who berated the Kogi state governor Yahaya Bello for allegedly denying the PDP the use of Confluence Stadium Lokoja to conduct their campaign rally, said it was time to sack the ruling APC to put an end to unfavorable policies in Kogi state. According to him, the emergence of Dino Melaya as governor will bring about good governance and development in Kogi state. Addressing a large crowd of supporters, the PDP governorship candidate Dino Melaya promised to govern the state with the fear of God. In another development, Osun State Governor Demola Adeleke today presented the proposed 273 billion naira 2024 budget to the State House of Assembly. The proposed budget, tagged Budget of Recovery, is made up of 108 billion 254,020,710 naira capital expenditure and 165 billion 654,976,700 naira as recurrent expenditure. Speaking at the official presentation of the document before the Speaker at the plenary, Governor Adeleke disclosed that the budget is aimed at rebuilding the state, which was battered before his ascension to office. Back here, the draft recurrent and capital estimates for the 2024 budget of the state government, with the policy thrust of supporting the execution of the Arise agenda, has been adopted by the Akwa Ibom State government. The State Commissioner for Information, Inni Emomobong, who disclosed this while briefing newsmen shortly after the enlarged State Executive Council meeting, said for the 2024 draft budget estimate, which was presented by the State Commissioner for Finance, The total recurrent estimate is 352.7 billion naira, while capital estimates stand at 487.895 billion naira, bringing the total budget to 840.632 billion naira. On the Geographic Information Systems Aquages, the Commissioner noted that the Senior Special Assistant to the Governor on ICT, Frank Ekpenyong, had also presented the software applications to be deployed in the execution of Aquages payment of bursary awards to undergraduates and project monitoring and evaluation. He promised that the apps would help in the efficient administration of the various programs to which they will be applied, stressing that the Governor therefore charged the SSA to ensure that technology is used to plug all loopholes of financial leakages within the governance system. Government House correspondent Jane Owa reports that the information boss also announced that ESCO directed that the State Commissioner for Local Government and Chieftaincy Affairs should strictly enforce the extant law of the State House of Assembly, which mandates all principal officers of local government areas to reside within their jurisdictions, adding that approval was given for emergency intervention at a Fiancet village in Ekat local government area to stop the erosion and reconstruct the destroyed portion of the road. Still to come in the news. EU urges Apple to pay 13 billion euros Irish tax. Do stay with us.
For brilliant broadcasts and entertainment, sports on the go, and news from the world, watch Spectrum TV on StarTimes DTH Channel 421 and free-to-air frequency 12733. Visit our website, spectrumtvlive.ng. Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.
Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the Constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the matters council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court,
Is
my
this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding your lordship.
My Lord, sorry, my Lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Hey, thanks for staying tuned. We move on now to Africa, where Kenya's government has imposed a charge for national identity cards in the country. Reports say Kenyans have been acquiring ID cards for free upon reaching 18, but new applicants now face a fee of 1,000 Kenyan shillings. The cost of replacing ID cards have also increased 20-fold to 2,000 shillings. According to reports, the new charges, which come amid a spiraling cost of living crisis, have ignited widespread outcry among Kenyans, especially on social media. Still in Africa, Libya International Criminal Court's prosecutor has updated the United Nations Security Council on the progress in human trafficking investigations. The prosecutor, Karim Khan, said his office has undertaken over 15 investigation missions and collected more than 4,000 items of evidence over the last 6 months. The update came 18 months after the implementation of a renewed strategic plan for the work of ICC in Libya. On the foreign scene, the United Nations Associations of the USA, UNA-USA, has emphasized the organization's commitment to the values and principles of the United Nations amid the conflict in the Middle East, demanding an immediate humanitarian ceasefire between Hamas and Israel. UNA-USA is a non-profit grassroots organization dedicated to promoting political and public support for the United Nations among Americans. The organization, in a statement to mark the 1-month anniversary of the killing of 1,400 Israelis by Hamas and the abduction of more than 200 hostages, called for their unconditional release. The group also demanded the immediate and unconditional release of civilians held hostage by Hamas and unimpeded humanitarian access to meet the urgent needs unfolding in Gaza. In addition, they demanded compliance with international humanitarian and human rights law, including principles of distinction and proportionality. According to the organization, an estimated 10,000 Palestinian civilians have been killed so far, with multiple reports indicating the majority of those killed have been women and children. In a related development, Iran has rejected a G7 statement which called on Tehran to stop supporting Hamas militants and taking actions that destabilize the Middle East. Tehran's comments came a day after foreign ministers from the G7 group of advanced economies meeting in Tokyo expressed support for humanitarian purses and corridors in the Israeli-Hamas war. According to Israeli officials, Israeli airstrikes have pounded the Palestinian territory of Gaza since Hamas gunmen stormed across the heavily militarized border on October 7 to kill more than 1,400 people, most of them civilians, and seize around 240 hostages. According to the Hamas-run health ministry, the subsequent Israeli bombing campaign in Gaza has killed more than 10,500 people, two-thirds of them women and children. Meanwhile, the G7 also called on Iran to refrain from providing support for Hamas and taking further actions that destabilize the Middle East, including support for Lebanese Hezbollah and other non-state actors. Meanwhile, a social media influencer was arrested in France today for making light of the reported killing of an Israeli baby by Hamas attackers. In a video, the woman, identified by media as Wada Anwar, a model, commented on the report by an Israeli first responder who said Hamas attackers had burned a baby alive in an oven during their assault on October 7. Meanwhile, the report has not been confirmed by Israeli authorities. Recall that following strong reactions on social media to the video last week, Interior Minister Gerald Damanin said Friday he had filed a criminal complaint against Anwar. In the meantime, French President Emmanuel Macron has opened a Gaza aid conference with an appeal for Israel to protect civilians as it fights Hamas, saying all lives have equal worth and that fighting terrorism can never be carried out without rules. The gathering in Paris brought together officials from Western and Arab nations, the United Nations and non-governmental organizations with the aim of providing urgent aid to civilians in the Gaza Strip that is being pounded by Israel in its war against Hamas. Macron reiterated calls for a humanitarian purse in Israel's operations. He said that by attacking Israel on October 7, that Hamas shouldered the responsibility for exposing Palestinians to terrible consequences, and he again defended Israel's right to defend itself. Still on the forward scene, the Israeli military says it has reopened an evacuation corridor to allow civilians in northern Gaza, where much of the war is taking place, to move to the south. The Israel Defense Forces, which has been telling Gazans to do this for weeks, says this will be the 5th consecutive day the Salan al-Din corridor is open. Avicii Adre, the military spokesman for Arab media, said that on the movement, though the main road running the length of Gaza would be permitted. Report says about 50,000 people managed to evacuate the north through the road. United Nations Humanitarian Agency said this is the largest number in a single day since the corridor was opened. Meanwhile, Palestine Red Crescent Society has said that a total of 106 trucks carrying food, water and medical supplies arrived at the Rafah border crossing between Egypt and Gaza amid growing calls from international aid agencies for a ceasefire to allow more aid into the besieged enclave. The society said the delivery from the Egyptian Red Crescent did not include desperately needed fuel, which Israel has banned from entering Gaza, claiming Hamas would commandeer supplies for military purposes. According to the Palestinian Red Crescent, the supply brings the total number of aid trucks into Gaza since October 7 to 756. Elsewhere, Spain's Prime Minister has clinched agreement with Catalan separatists in a deal that will enable him remain in power, but that has raised tensions and sparked protests in the country. Reports say Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez's socialists finished second in the July 23 parliamentary election and that he has until November 27 to cobble together a working coalition or face fresh elections. Sanchez needs the support of Catalan independence parties and has accepted their demands to offer amnesty to all those being pursued for their role in a failed secession attempt in 2017. In response to conservative opposition parties and members of Spain's judiciary have stepped up criticisms, with some accusing Sanchez of corruption and abandoning the rule of law. Meanwhile, the proposed bill has sparked several days of tense protests in the country this week, with thousands rallying against it in the capital, Madrid. And now it's time for the latest business and stock market stories. Here is Blessing Dixon.
Thank you, Xavier Robert. Good evening. It's business news. My name is Blessing Dixon. In the news, a legal advisor to the European Court of Justice has argued that a ruling allowing Apple to avoid paying 13 billion euros in back taxes should be overturned. The move is the latest in the long-running saga between the EU, the US tech giant, and the Irish government. 3 years ago, a ruling which found that Apple had been given illegal tax breaks by the Irish government was overturned. But Advocate General Giovanni Petrizzula at the Court of Justice said the case should be reviewed again. He argued a series of legal errors had been made in the ruling in Apple's favor. In Nigeria, the Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, has vowed to investigate the 5-year license extension for the country's 11 distribution companies, DISCOs. Adelabu disclosed this during an interactive session with journalists. Nigeria's electricity sector privatization agreement expired on 31st October this year after a 10-year memorandum plan commenced in November 2013. The contract has allowed for an additional 5 years and another option for 10 years of renewal after the government reviewed the performance of the DISCOs. Still in Nigeria, MTN Nigeria has raised 52.89 billion naira from its Series 8 and 9 commercial paper issuance under its 250 billion naira commercial paper issuance program. This was revealed in a notice filed by the Nigerian Exchange Limited following the completion of the commercial papers CPs. Last Thursday, MTN had announced the CPs, saying it was seeking to raise 52.895 billion naira across both series. The offer was fully subscribed. MTN Nigeria issued a 182-day commercial papers at a yield of 14% and 226-day commercial papers at a yield of 16%. The CP issuance was completed on Tuesday. It's time for the Nigerian Stock Market Report. At the end of today's trading session on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, a total of 569.19 million shares in 6,169 deals, corresponding to a market value of 16.79 billion naira, were traded. The current market capitalization of the Nigerian Stock Exchange remains at 38.9 trillion naira. 121 listed equities participated in trading, ending with 26 gainers and 28 losers. UPDC led the gainers with a 9.91% share price appreciation, closing at 1 naira 22 kobo per share. On the losing side, VFD Group came out last with an end-of-day price depreciation of 10% at 184 naira 50 kobo per share. Jopol Gold Inventors recorded the highest volume of 114 million traded shares, followed by Stanbic IBTC Holdings with 96.9 million and United Bank of Africa with 75.2 million traded shares. This is all in business news. And back to Xavier Robert for the rest of the news. Good evening.
Thanks, Blessing. Still to come in the news. Bundles Legal Club entered Frankfurt table bid for Urbans to stay with us.
One truth not often told is about the transformation that Africa has undergone in recent decades. Africa is shaping its own destiny and should be referred to as the African opportunity. On Spotlight Africa, we paint the African picture the African way, laced with truth, detail, and the color of the African continent. Join Uyai Anyekan every Tuesday and Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Spotlight Africa, telling the African story.
Every day marks a day of significance.
That in view of the apology tendered by this former minister who had earlier been cleared by this August Assembly,
as we face critical issues, developments and events which shape our social and political landscape here in Nigeria and beyond. Political Spectrum is a program specially designed to help make sense of all the moving parts of developments and occurrences in our nation's polity and political economy.
There is nothing wrong with Nigeria, but there's everything wrong.
The educational history of public figures holds significance beyond mere biographical details.
From executive, legislative and judicial developments at national and subnational levels to international diplomacy and relations.
Join us for exclusive interviews with key political figures, expert opinions, analysts, thought-provoking conversations for and against, shedding light on the major issues that matter. We will always keep you updated on the most factual, smartest and unbiased reportage.
Stay tuned to Political Spectrum. Political Spectrum. All sides matter at the round table. Political Spectrum. Exclusive to Spectrum Television.
Every society is premised on the quality of relationships forged by its inhabitants. The health of these relationships determines how well people, relationships, organizations thrive and how long they stick together. Join Uyai Anyekan on Connect every Wednesday from 6 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. and on Sunday 2:30 to 3 p.m. on channel 421 on Star Times to catch all the conversations, interviews, real stories and how to navigate relationships and family life in the 21st century. Real people, real faces, real stories. Connect live on Spectrum Television.
Many thanks for staying tuned. And now in health, the Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Ali Pate, has said that the rotavirus disease claims the lives of more than 330 African children under the age of 5 every day, along with a significant burden on families and healthcare systems. Pate said this at the 14th African Rotavirus Symposium, organized by the African Rotavirus Network in Abuja. Pate, who was represented by the Director General of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention, Dr. Ifedayo Adetifa, noted that nearly 250,000 children under the age of 5 succumb to rotavirus annually, and hundreds of thousands more are hospitalized. Reports say rotavirus is a leading cause of severe diarrhea in children, and its impact is devastating, leading to countless hospitalizations, misuse of antimicrobials, and tragically, the loss of lives. So in health, stakeholders at the ongoing 33rd Annual General Meeting and 17th Scientific Conference of the Nigerian Society of Pharmacognosy have emphasized the crucial role of natural remedies products in promoting human health and reducing the burden of disease. The Osun State Governor Demola Adeleke, represented by the Commissioner for Health Jola Akintola, at the 4-day event, stated that it was important to reconsider and appreciate the inherent benefits of natural products in the promotion of well-being and improving healthcare outcomes. The Commissioner further emphasized the need to strike a balance between preserving biodiversity and utilizing natural resources responsibly. Let's head over now to Isaac. Isaac, for latest sports stories.
Well, thank you so much and good evening. In sports, Eintracht Frankfurt, who once had former Super Eagles captain Austin J.J. Okocha in their ranks, are eager to sign Orban when the transfer window reopens in January 2024. The 22-year-old is valued around 20 million euros, but Ghent are expected to demand more for the player. The Buffaloes reportedly rejected a 25 million euro bid for the Nigerian in January. Gift Orban stirred controversy last weekend when he accused Ghent of trying to destroy his career because of a lack of game time. The striker has also been frustrated after he did not make a big transfer in the summer, as widely expected. He joined Ghent from Norwegian side Stabæk in January. Moving on, injured duo of Casemiro and Lisandro Martinez are not expected to return to action for Manchester United before Christmas, according to Erik ten Hag. Casemiro sustained a hamstring injury in the 3-0 defeat by Newcastle in the Carabao Cup last week, while Martinez is recovering from his surgery on a recurring foot problem. The news means they could miss up to 10 games in all competitions. The Brazil and Argentina internationals were already on United's long-term injury list, along with Tyrell Malacia, Luke Shaw, and Dama Diallo, while Jadon Sancho remains unavailable due to disciplinary issues. Well, of course, coming back home, Team Nigeria table tennis would have another opportunity to compete for the Olympic Games slot when they face 39 other countries at the upcoming World Championships in Busan, Korea. Nigeria is among the 4 countries that were confirmed by the World Table Tennis for the championship. They also listed Nigeria alongside Egypt, Algeria, and Tunisia in the female category. Nigeria's last appearance in the team event of the Olympics was in Rio 2016, while Egypt represented Africa in Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games. Well, next year's World Championships will be held at the Busan Exhibition and Convention Center from February 16 to 25th, 2024. Well, that's it on sports. My name is Isaac. Thank you and good evening.
Many thanks, Isaac. And now on entertainment news, Hollywood actors and studios reached a tentative deal to end the months-long strike that has crippled the entertainment industry, delayed hundreds of popular shows and films, and cost billions to the U.S. economy. The Screen Actors Guild, SAG-AFTRA, called off its 118-day strike after finally reaching an agreement with the likes of Disney and Netflix for a new contract including higher pay and protections against the use of artificial intelligence. The announcement paves the way for actors to head back to movie sets, an end to picket lines outside studios, and a return to employment for thousands of other jobs linked to the entertainment industry. According to a message sent to union members, negotiators said the contract was valued at more than $1 billion and would enable members to build sustainable careers. Meanwhile, President Joe Biden welcomed the deal, saying it reflected successful collective bargaining and labor and management working together in good faith. Still on entertainment news, former head of the Grammy Awards, Neil Portnow, has been sued by a member of the Recording Academy who claimed he drugged and raped her in a New York hotel in 2018. Reports say the lawsuit filed in New York State Court accuses Portnow of sexual assault, which the Recording Academy aided and abetted to protect their reputations and silence plaintiff and other women in the music industry. Meanwhile, the woman who is not named in the lawsuit is described as a musician who once performed at Carnegie Hall and was a former voting member of the Recording Academy, the non-profit organization that oversees the Grammys. Meanwhile, American rapper Rocky has appeared in court to hear former friend and fellow rapper Riley describe how the star nearly killed him in a hail of gunfire. Recall that Rocky, whose real name is Rakeem Mayers, pleaded not guilty last August to 2 charges of assault with a semi-automatic firearm stemming from the 2021 incident. Reports say he is facing up to 8 years in jail if convicted on 2 felony counts of assault with a semi-automatic firearm. And lastly, on entertainment tonight, popular singer Raul John Jang Jang, better known as Kills, said, "Gone are those days when female fans tame their obsessions with male celebrities after their marriage." The married singer said, "Nowadays, ladies use how married male celebrities treat their wives as a yardstick for their obsession with them." He claimed most women prefer bad boys and no longer care if a celebrity is married. The Sheikh Badi crooner spoke in a recent podcast interview with a showroom. And that's all we have for you at this time. Do ensure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtvlive.ng. You've been watching Spectrum News at 9. My name is Xavier Robert. You have a good night. Bye for now.